Broadcasting live from the Dollar Loan Center, Don'tBeBroke.com studios. KXST AM, North Las Vegas. KXTE HD3, Pahrump, Las Vegas. CBS Sports Radio, 1140, a radio.com station. The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbransen and Matt Gutierrez.
Good morning, Las Vegas. It's a crucial AFC West showdown in Los Angeles today as the Raiders head to the StubHub Center to take on the El Toro / Compton / Carson / Los Angeles Chargers in a pivotal division matchup. Can the Raiders climb from their early season abyss and at least be in the race in the division, or are the Chiefs and the Bolts the only two serious contenders? Welcome back to Las Vegas's only all Raiders talk show, coming to you live and caffeinated from the Dollar Loan Center Don'tBeBroke.com studios for another week of Raiders football talk on Silver and Black Today. Of course, the companion to the silverandblacktoday.com website. Hi, I'm Scott Gulbransen, your co-host. And we will be joined shortly by my co-host, Matt Gutierrez, who joins us remotely from said soccer stadium in L.A. as he covers the game for the Silver and Black Today in person. And joining me in the studio today is our young Padawan, right? So if you're a Star Wars fan, and that is David Stepanian. David, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Scott. Thanks for having me on again. And just about that Chargers-Raiders game, this is pretty fun because the Raiders lose a home game every year, thanks to Mexico City or London. But they really gain a home game back when they go to L.A. to face the Chargers.
They do. And I'm sure we will see yet another Silver and Black out in the StubHub Center. So it'll be interesting, and we'll get into that game later as well. Each week we meet you here to talk Raiders football, but we want you to be part of the conversation. Sound off, Las Vegas and Raider Nation, no matter where you are, whether you're listening here in town or on the radio.com app, like Joe Riley, who's listening to us in Montgomery, Alabama. You can call from anywhere, 702-889-5978, and tell us what you think. Call us, 702-889-5978. Reminder, we are also streaming today's show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, which you can find on the CBS Sports Radio 1140 AM Twitter handle or on our Silver and Black Today pages. You can watch and listen, and we are doing that as well. We also have our crack engineer, and that is Sonia Schlobaum, and she's here, and we'll get her on. We like to tap her into the show, and she'll be here as well. Again, don't be shy. Interact with us. Twitter, Silver Black Today, Silver Black, the number 2 day on Twitter. We'll take your questions there as well. Now, a programming note for everybody. Due to the start of the NFL game of the week here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 AM between the Chiefs and the Jags starting at 9:30, we'll be shifting the last half hour of the show to radio.com only. So make sure you fire up the app a little before 8:30, and you can follow the end of the show there as we get set for that big game here on the show. So make sure you check that out. As always, our second segment this hour is with our cousin Vinny Bonsignore from The Athletic Los Angeles. Our weekly contributor, Sunday mouth, will be here. Vinny will give us his take on who has supremacy in the AFC as the Chiefs and the Jags tee it up today in that big game, and the Patriots win again, showing the world that their dynasty is nowhere near over. Also, we'll talk to Vinny about the latest NFL television ratings. Do they signal an issue for the league and its popularity? He'll give us a skinny on that. Also in the first hour, David Stepanian looks at the history of the Raiders versus Chargers, the old AFL rivalry that turned into a division rivalry after the merger. It's had some colorful and interesting twists and turns. We'll hear about that in an interesting story. At the end of the first hour, silverandblacktoday.com's senior NFL analyst Chris Reed will join us with his hugely popular breakdown, X's and O's segment, where he breaks down the film and play of new Raiders starting right tackle Brandon Parker. You can read his written version of that up on the website. He'll be with us to discuss the youngster's big start in L.A. today. Then in the second hour, we'll jump out on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line again to the StubHub Center and talk with Sam Fortier, the beat writer for the Chargers with the Athletic in Los Angeles as well. He'll fill us in on the latest on the Bolts and where they stand heading into the game against the Raiders. Then we welcome special guest, again on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line, Raiders Super Bowl champion Dokie Williams, who will talk to us about that special year, 1983, which culminated in the Raiders' third Lombardi Trophy. He'll give us his take on the Raiders this year and the return of Jon Gruden. So that team, that L.A. Raiders team, David, we're going to hear from Dokie about that year and what a special one it was.
Yeah, and that year in particular has so much to do with how many L.A. Raiders fans there are today in Los Angeles. But this kind of worries me, man. This year the Rams might be able to get that second Super Bowl in Los Angeles. And I don't know, are the fans going to forget about that 1984 Super Bowl game? I don't know. Maybe the Rams are going to be sort of the new team in LA, because when I went to that Rams-Raiders games, there was a ton of Raiders fans there.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll be something different.
Well, and the Rams, I think, actually, people are starting to talk about it a little bit because you just never know in the NFL, but the Rams have a shot to maybe run the table. So we'll see.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see based on schedule.
I think I saw like minus 800 or something like that at Westgate or William Hill.
So now we're going to go back out on the line on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line, and we're going to bring in my usual co-host. He is on the road. He is at the StubHub Center in Los Angeles for today's game. Matt Gutierrez. Matt, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
All right. You're on the phone. I don't have you sitting here next to me, so I feel a little bit lonely.
We left the space open, though. Well, we left the space open for him, so it's sort of like a spiritual thing.
David tried to sit in your space, Matt. I wouldn't let him.
I was pretty. You know what? I didn't mean to step over my boundaries.
I'm actually right, kind of across the street from the stadium, just hanging out at a Starbucks here. I just got into Carson about maybe 15 minutes ago or so.
All right, man. Well, it's going to be interesting with that game down there and how it goes, and we're going to talk about that here in a few minutes as we take you through some segments, especially as we get to the third segment. We talk about the history of the Chargers and the Raiders. Now, we're going to go to a story here in a minute, but before we do, Matt, talk to me about your view on what that crowd's going to be like today down at the StubHub Center.
It's going to be a Raider crowd. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I saw a handful of cars with flags as I'm coming down the 605 this morning, and that's at 7:30 in the morning. They're already on their way down, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different than what you saw the last time they played in San Diego 2 years ago, which was the last year that the Chargers actually played there. It's going to be 90+% Raiders fans. It's just the way it is.
It's the way it's going to be.
Chargers team, that they don't have any support in LA, at least not any support that's going to be sustainable in the foreseeable future. They're really going to have to build a fan base down here if they want to start selling out home games with that powder blue instead of any other team's color that walks into LA.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little later too. I mean, obviously I grew up in San Diego, grew up a Charger fan in my youth and into my adult years, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But hold on, Matt. I'm going to put you on hold. Don't go anywhere. And what we're going to do now is, of course, this past week we had the anniversary of October 1st. And the Raiders and the Vegas Golden Knights had a great event. They wanted to honor first responders on the anniversary. So on October 2nd, they had a cool event that I attended with the Raiders and the Golden Knights at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Here's a story I did on that event. The pain and sadness as a result of October 1, 2017 is still fresh in the minds of Las Vegans. And as the city and victims of that fateful night continue their journey of healing, remembering the somber anniversary was an important step in moving forward. This week, the Raiders organization, along with their fellow pro franchise brethren, the Vegas Golden Knights, showed their appreciation for the first responders in our community by staging a meet and greet luncheon held at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Headquarters in Las Vegas. The event, the first co-hosted event from the Las Vegas's first Major League franchise in the Golden Knights and the city's next pro team in the Raiders, was meant as a token of appreciation for the valiant efforts displayed by first responders each and every day. The Raiders sent current team players, linebacker Markel Lee, safety Eric Harris, and linebacker Kyle Wilbur to feed the first responders, sign autographs, and pose for pictures as a simple way to say thank you. Harris said while many look at him and his teammates as heroes on the field, he was humbled meeting the heroes that put their lives on the line each and every day.
Like I said, it's all about the people here and the first responders that were on the scene, and it just so happens that we have a platform to, bring a little bit of positive energy to this community, but to see the smile on these people's faces today really means a lot.
Linebacker Markel Lee seemed to have an even better time honoring the police and Clark County firefighters in attendance than the first responders had meeting these star professional athletes.
Oh, it's definitely a dope experience. Getting to see those guys and then getting to be around the first responders is definitely a dope experience. I'm glad to be here. These guys are our heroes, and Vegas heroes, Vegas strong. We support the movement, our new town coming up, and we're glad to be here.
The visit by both teams was a heartfelt thank you that was appreciated by the hundreds of first responders who waited in line on this day to meet some of their heroes and helped all of them feel appreciated for the sacrifices they made on 1 October, but also the sacrifices they make each and every day in our community. Metro Lieutenant Brandon Clarkson said his brothers and sister in law enforcement and from the fire department truly appreciated the gesture, and it made them feel appreciated.
It does feel good to be appreciated. We know by far our community supports our law enforcement, and just the physically coming down here to show that support is just really affirming what we know, that our community supports us, but it's good to see.
The event once again underscores not only the Raiders and the Golden Knights' commitment to the Las Vegas community, but also shows what pro sports brings to the Valley, and that goes far beyond the gridiron or the ice. All right, so there you have it. Great event, gentlemen, down at Metro headquarters. Was just fantastic to see the faces of the police and fire folks down there. David and Matt was phenomenal. And I think, again, this underscores not only what the Raiders and the Golden Knights in the community, but also for those folks who might have been against stadium funding and didn't really care about pro sports, guys. These teams, with their money and the revenue that they generate, they do a lot in the community.
Look, the thing about having a pro sports franchise, and this is something very new to the Las Vegas community, but they're a part of the community, and they do whatever they can to help out the community. The team's not even here yet, and you see them just how much they're doing to help, and it might take some getting used to for a lot of people who might not have warmed up to the idea of having an NFL team here in Vegas. But yeah, it's really a very positive thing for the community and the city.
Yeah, and Matt, you've been not only to a lot of the Raiders community events that they've been doing now for over a year, but also Golden Knights. Talk about how when you see the faces of whether it's kids, first responders, what it means to them for these guys to come out and see them. Oh, we'll get to Matt. There he is, Matt. Start over. Sorry, we didn't have you potted up.
No, it's good. I feel like, we get spoiled, those of us in the media that get to be around these guys all the time. We get spoiled just being able to interact with them the way that fans really wish that they could. And these events are the times when you get to see how the fans really react to guys just being guys. When you get them in these situations, they're no longer football players. That they can still be larger than life, but they're just guys that really want to get into the community and interact with these fans and just have a good time and show them how appreciative they are to have them there with them. And it's a great thing for any community, and it's something that I think Vegas has been missing for a long time. We saw glimpses of it last year with the Golden Knights. We saw the way the community rallied around them, and you're going to get that times 10 when the NFL gets here, because that's just the way the NFL is. It's such a juggernaut.
It really is, and it was fantastic to be out there. I have friends on Metro who I saw there, including we have some family in Metro, and to see them all out there. These folks, it was kind of a hot, muggy day, even though the temperatures cooled down here in Las Vegas, and they were waiting in line for quite a while, so it was good to do that. Well, we're going to step aside here in a minute, and so when we come back, we're going to go through and talk with Vinny Bonsignore for his weekly My Cousin Vinny segment on the AFC. Who has supremacy in the AFC? And are the ratings in the NFL a concern? And if they are, what does it all mean? We're going to hear from Vinny when we come back here. And you're listening to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM. We here every Sunday talking Raider football, the only all-Raider Raider talk show in Las Vegas. We're going to pay some bills, and we'll talk to Vinny when we come back. You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM.
Callers and guests on the Newsmaker line are brought to you by the Law Office of Michael A. Troiano. Help us talk the Silver and Black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Matt Gutierrez and your host, Scott Gulbranson, on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 AM.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black today, folks, with Matt Gutierrez live from L.A., almost close to the StubHub Center. We'll bring him back in here in a minute. Also joining us, our correspondent and co-host today, David Stepanian. But right now, we go to our favorite segment of the day, and of course, that's with our cousin Vinny, and that is Vinny Bonsignore from The Athletic, Los Angeles. Vinny, of course, longtime NFL writer and columnist. And we're bringing in him now to talk a little bit about the AFC and what's going on in the conference. How you doing today, Vinny?
I'm doing good. The question is, how are you guys doing? I mean, kind of a crazy night last night in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Everyone's safe and sound, and
oh yeah. There's it's typical of Las Vegas and what happens with fights, right? Is sometimes it just gets a little bit out of control. And I remember my daughter was born right near Tyson when Tyson had the whole ear biting thing and all that. So there's always something crazy that happens, Vinny. And so we're used to it here, but it'll be interesting to see how that all falls out.
Do you remember a few years ago when Conor McGregor was fighting Jose Aldo and all the Irish fans spilled on to Las Vegas Boulevard and they stopped traffic on Las Vegas Boulevard right by New York and MGM Grand?
I do not recall.
That's just another incident.
But I have no Irish blood in me. I have Italian blood like Vinny does, and then my wife's got a little bit of Irish, even though she's Cuban, believe it or not. But Vinny, so let's talk about the AFC now. Raiders at the Chargers today, which our co-host Matt is down there to cover. Chiefs and Jags. The Patriots are back to winning now when everybody again was saying, oh boy, I think the dynasty might be over. How's this race shaping up after the quarter of the season? Who has the advantage? Who has supremacy in the AFC?
well, I mean, you can never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever, and I stress never, ever discount the New England Patriots. Until somebody comes along to legitimately dethrone them, they're the kings, and somebody's going to have to come and take it away from them. And do I have some suspicions about them? Yeah, I do. Do I think that there's teams in the AFC that can beat them? I absolutely do. Somebody like a Jacksonville, which can defend them, and for Jacksonville, maybe they could get them in Florida in December or January, I should say. Out of their element a little bit. I think they can be had, but somebody's going to have to do it. So for right now, I'm still sticking with the Patriots. Really fascinated with that Kansas City Chiefs, Jacksonville Jaguars game. I think this is where we figure out a little bit more about Patrick Mahomes and about the Chiefs. This is that tough team to play, and it's going to be a challenge for them, especially on a short week.
Well, and you got to expect, and you saw it covering Los Angeles, obviously, with Jared Goff. You got to expect a young quarterback, no matter how good he is, to struggle at some point, right? Everybody goes through growing pains, and so it'll be, if he can get through this game against Jacksonville, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair myself. But if he can get through this game and end up winning it, then in my mind, I don't see how you couldn't believe, right?
Yeah, no question about it. And even if he puts a good show on and they lose, let's face it, the future is bright for him regardless of what happens today. He's just a supreme talent. I am interested to see how teams are going to try to defend him. He kind of has a little Ben Roethlisberger in him where he makes plays better when he's moving around, when he's outside the pocket. I think that there's a way to deal with that by, keeping him in those boundaries rather than putting so much pass rush on him to force him into a game that is beneficial to him. Maybe not, there would be a fine line between it where you're more containing him rather than rushing him. I'd like to see if teams start doing that a little bit more to make him make plays in the pocket rather than outside the pocket, which is his strength.
Now, Raiders at Chargers in the StubHub, and of course, the trash talking during the week was excellent. And I followed your conversations with people from San Diego, my hometown, who still can't get over what happened and refuse to believe some of the facts. But nonetheless, with this game, to me, it's intriguing. You know, the Raiders couldn't finish. They finally finished against the Browns in dramatic fashion. But the Chargers, I think, are getting stronger. They're getting healthier. And even though it might be 70, 80, maybe even more percent Raider fans in the StubHub Center today, I still think they have an edge there. But if the Raiders can win this game, Vinny, do they suddenly then, especially if the Chiefs were to lose today, they suddenly start to think, boy, we could get back into the AFC West race at the very least?
Yeah, no question. It's a 16-game schedule. It's a long season. I always marvel at how long it really is, and the various roads that teams travel to get to their destination. And sometimes it's a bumpy road, and you'd rather get it out of the way early. And maybe the Raiders have. This is going to be a tough game for them to win. I believe in the Chargers. I think they're a really good football team. They showed that at various times against the Rams. They're a load to deal with defensively. You have to put points on the board because they're going to be able to score. They have so many weapons offensively, and Phillip Rivers is still a really viable quarterback. So tough challenge for the Raiders today. But if they do win, this puts them on the right track. And again, it's a long season. Anything can happen. I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I still think that the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team right now, and I think the Chargers are the number 2 team. But a win here, and all of a sudden that changes the complexion of that race.
It sure does. Now, if we look outside, and again, I think that the Chargers' running game is going to be an issue for the Raiders today, and we're going to talk about that with Sam Fortier, your coworker at the Athletic there in Los Angeles, and later on. But now let's shift a little bit to the wider NFL, Vinny. According to Variety this week, NFL telecasts are down an average of 2% in total viewers from where they were at the same point, so a quarter of the season in 2017. Yet we've had this incredible, and to me, a really exciting start to the season with some of the stories, the Mahomes story, obviously the Rams doing so well with the possibility of maybe even running the table. Is the NFL and TV executives, the folks that you talk to and have great insight with, are they nervous at all? And if they are or aren't, what do they believe the cause is?
Well, I just think that the easy answer is fewer people are watching TV, period. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the numbers, the NFL, their decrease is much smaller than the average, television show, let's say. They're losing viewers left and right, whereas it's a slow fall, I guess, for the NFL. But from the NFL's perspective, they're going to have to figure out a way to quantify just the total viewership across all, boards, watching online, watching on your phone. A lot of fans now watch the Red Zone because they're fantasy league fans, and they just, their mind is there and watching seeing it all at once type of a thing. I think TV people have to be, worried because that's their business, and it's not just sports, it's everywhere else where viewership is falling off. But I think from the league's perspective, yeah, you want to see those numbers up, but then they start looking at all the numbers, and they're saying we're not really losing many viewers. It's just how these viewers are digesting the product. And again, they're going to have to figure out a way to bring light on, hey, yeah, TV viewership might be down, but in the whole grand scheme of things, it's still right where we want it to be.
Yeah, and that's the argument I've always had. I mean, last year and the last couple of years with the whole flag controversy, the national anthem stuff, I've always dismissed it. And talking to people I know in the NFL who work with specific teams and at the league office, they all say, listen, it's not impacting it. It's just not. Now, for some people, yeah, you get it. But overall, it's not. And that's where then they would argue, they would use statistics like I just gave you from Variety saying, well, viewership's down. I'd say yes, but if you looked at the top 10 of the top 15 or top 10 of the top 15 TV broadcasts of last year, they were all NFL games. And then the other key, Vinny, that I think this is the first year they will actually count it towards ratings, so we won't know till after the year's over. But this will be the first year that streaming is even more widely available across NFL properties, including CBS and others. So I think we'll get a better sense for how people are consuming media. Just like you used to work for a print publication. Now you work for an online publication that is setting the world on fire in sports. The way people digest media overall has changed. So undoubtedly that's going to be the same for the NFL.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And if you look at readership, newspaper readership, let's say, it's not that there's a lack of readers. It's how are they reading it? They're reading it online mostly now, rather than actually buying the paper. That was the lifeblood of newspapers, were people putting a quarter, 50 cents, whatever it might be, or having a subscription to the actual paper. And now they're reading online. And how do you monetize that? How do you capitalize on that? And so, and that goes back to what we're talking about, with the NFL. And I will like to add, and you made a good point, the games have been exciting this year, and I've talked to coaches about this, and I think rule changes have played a little bit of a role in it. I think that you have creativity now with offensive coaches who are not trying to pigeonhole quarterbacks coming in from college into an NFL way, and they're saying, hey, this guy's successful doing it this way. Let's try to bring some of that into our game to help these quarterbacks along. And, oh, by the way, it's taking defenses by storm. This is a good thing. And scoring is up and offense is up. So it's exciting. And I think that as the season goes on, I think TV viewership probably will go up as well. But, again, we're going to have to see when all the numbers are laid out after the season and to truly see how many people are actually viewing in the various ways that they do nowadays.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I think that even the controversy around the roughing the passer stuff gets people fired up, and they're waiting for that next egregious call to come. And so I think overall the health of the NFL, while they have issues in other places, certainly is extremely healthy, and the folks that want to say that it's not aren't really on point. So, Vinny, as always, thanks, man. We will talk to you next week.
All right. Have a great week and enjoy the games today.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Vinny Bonsignore from The Athletic in Los Angeles. We're going to step aside. When we come back, we're going to talk history of the Chargers versus Raiders on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. Indeed, you are. Welcome back, Silver and Black Today, coming to you live from the Dollar Loan Center, don'tbebroke.com studios. Scott Branson, David Stepanian, and on the phone, on assignment, as Tony Cardasco likes to say when people actually aren't here, but Matt Gutierrez is joining us from Los Angeles and how he's doing down there. He's going to join us here in a second. But what we're going to do first, and Matt's going to jump in on this, is David did a nice little news package, which we're going to listen to now, which is around the history of the San Diego now, or Los Angeles, San Diego / Los Angeles. Now they're back.
Yeah, it gets a little
Chargers.
confusing. It gets a little confusing there. But yeah, it all
Not
starts
as confusing as the Raiders.
All started in L.A. Yeah.
It started in L.A. Here's David on the history of the Chargers and Raiders.
The NFL is famous for some of its division rivalries, whether it's the Vikings, Packers, or Giants, Cowboys, and even the Jets, Patriots for a while. But the AFC West doesn't have a rivalry that stands out. All four teams hate each other equally, and if you talk to Raiders fans, you'll get a different answer for different reasons. A popular pick in Las Vegas being the Denver Broncos for its proximity to the city of sin and the plethora of Broncos fans littered across the valley. In Week 5, however, the Raiders take on a divisional rival with a history of bad blood with the silver and black. The LA Chargers were founded in the AFL in 1959 and began play at the Coliseum in 1960. The Raiders joined them in the AFL's Western Division that same year, but there wasn't much of a rivalry in the beginning, with the Chargers winning the first 6 contests between the teams. That was thanks in large part to a wide receivers coach named Al Davis. In 1962, Davis was approached for the Raiders' head coaching job, but he wasn't interested, unless he would also be offered the GM position. After the Raiders agreed to his terms for a 3-year deal worth $20,000 a year, Davis left the Chargers and called Oakland his new home. Almost instantly, the Raiders would turn things around and went on to beat the Chargers in 3 of their next 4 meetings. Fast forward 20 years, and the Raiders take their Chargers rivalry off the field and into the courtroom. When Al Davis sued the NFL to allow the teams move to Los Angeles and named former Chargers owner Gene Klein as a witness, causing Klein to have a heart attack on the witness stand. Davis won the suit and moved the Raiders to L.A., where they remained until 1995. Klein, in turn, sued Al Davis for $10 million for malicious prosecution, though a 4th District Court would rule in favor of Davis. Fast forward a few more years, and in 1987, after spending 9 years under Al Davis in Oakland and LA, the Chargers would hire Steve Ortmeyer to be their general manager. After missing the playoffs in each of his years as GM, he was let go in 1990 and was immediately hired by Al Davis to return to the Raiders. Today, the Raiders have 3 Super Bowls to their name, and the Chargers remain the only team in the AFC West yet to hoist the Lombardi Trophy. The Raiders swept the Chargers in 2016, but the Chargers returned the favor in 2017. Jon Gruden won 7 out of 8 meetings against the Chargers as coach of the Raiders, though none of those Chargers teams had a winning season, and LA is still in the playoff hunt through a quarter of the 2018 schedule. The Raiders, on the other hand, have the odds stacked against them to make the postseason. Win or lose, the Raiders will get another crack at the Chargers in Oakland on November 11th. For Silver and Black Today, I'm David Stepanian.
All right, David. Good job, man.
Yeah, thanks. I have a question for you.
Yes.
So what's your most hated team in the AFC West?
Well, now it's the Chargers, but which is a weird thing for me because I grew up loving the Chargers.
That is pretty weird.
I mean, I grew up as Dan Fouts posters, John Jefferson posters on my wall. Which it's funny. Some of our listeners, or a few, seem to think is like a big scandal that I used to be a Charger fan and I grew up a Charger fan, which is kind of funny. But anyway, I did. Now,
What, the Chiefs?
The Chargers only because that used to be my team, and they abandoned the city of San Diego, and that's why 4 years ago I was done with them. And you don't have to be a fan of a team to cover them, but nonetheless, I don't like Denver either. I think they have a cocky kind of attitude, and then people, like you said, in Vegas with Denver, I don't know why there's so many Denver fans.
Look, man, growing up, being in Vegas throughout the 2000s, and the Raiders weren't so good. I'll admit they weren't great in the 2000s, for much of the 2000s, and a lot of Broncos fans gave me a lot of stuff for being a Raiders fan. Every time there was a Raiders-Broncos meeting and the Raiders would lose, or a missed field goal as time expires to win the game.
It happens, right?
It happens, and yeah, I mean, the Broncos fans, the fan base here
and we'll bring in Matt.
A part of my disdain.
We'll bring in Matt now too, because Matt, as you remember, when the several times we've talked to Phil Villapiano, it's always about the Kansas City Chiefs. How about you, brother?
I don't like the Chiefs at all, mostly because the Chiefs are the only team in the AFC West that have a winning record against the Raiders. The Raiders have, in large part, dominated the series between the Chargers and even the Broncos. They hold a winning record against the Broncos as well. So I'm not a fan of the Chiefs, but Bronco fans are insufferable. They're some of the worst that I've been around as far as visiting stadiums are concerned. So the Broncos are number one on my list. That's why I generally refer to them as the Donkeys. Not a fan at all of the Broncos. The Chargers, one of my best friends, one of my longest time friends, was a huge Chargers fan up until Spanos took him up to LA a couple of years ago. And that I think fueled that rivalry a lot, because I had to deal with him for a long 13 games in a row. At one point, the Chargers beat the Raiders through the early to mid 2000s, and I had to deal with that nonsense every single season. So that really made that rivalry stronger. But for me, it's going to be the Donkeys always.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's one of those deals where, I mean, you hate all your division rivals. But the history of the Chargers, David, and you went into a lot of this, right, which is the history of the Chargers and the Raiders is really deep, because not only did the Chargers start in Los Angeles, which would be a future home of the Raiders, and then again another home of the Chargers once again, was that Al Davis started with the Raiders as a coach.
The Chargers.
Yes, with the Chargers, excuse me, thank you. And so Davis never liked the Chargers, because he felt as though, from the conversations I've seen in interviews I've read, that he was there, they had him, he studied under Sid Gilman, the great offensive mind of the early NFL and AFL, but they never wanted to give him the opportunity to be a general manager, do what he was able to do in Oakland.
Yeah, if Al Davis was never given that opportunity to be a GM, I mean, who knows what would have happened with the AFL-NFL merger. You know, he was so instrumental to getting the AFL to the point that it needed to be in the late 60s. But yeah, the Chargers have a pretty interesting history with the Raiders that I don't think a lot of people knew about. They have more reason to have bad blood than arguably the other teams in the AFC West.
No, they do, but Matt, you can relate to this since you're a Dodger fan too, and I'm still the one San Diego team that I still have allegiance to is the Padres. And the Padre fans always look
Bless your soul.
Yes, I know. It's like being into S&M. The Padres always hate the Dodgers, right? So for us in San Diego as a kid growing up during those years, I hated the Dodgers. They were our quote-unquote rival. The Dodger fans could care less about the Padres because, like, yeah, whatever. Like this year, the Dodgers had the most, right, Matt? I mean, it was a one-sided rivalry, and I think with the Chargers rivalry, it's a little different because you go to things like the Holy Roller.
Well, I think a lot of that, too, is San Diego a lot of times has that little brother syndrome when it comes to Los Angeles. And the fans in Los Angeles descend on San Diego, whether it's a Padres game against the Dodgers or a Chargers game against the Raiders. The L.A. fans take over San Diego. It's like that. I've been to dozens of both Dodgers and Raiders games in San Diego, and it doesn't matter how the team is playing, what time of year it is, L.A. fans come in droves. I'll give you a real quick, interesting number here. 4 games they've played against the Chargers where the Chargers were the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are 4-0 in those games.
Since going back to LA.
LA teams dominate. The Raiders were 19-9 against the Chargers when they were LA. So whoever plays in LA clearly is going to dominate this series, it seems.
No, interesting fact. The other thing is, and we're not going to have a ton of time talking. We got about a minute and a half left. But David, you mentioned it in your story, and people in San Diego to this day, it's almost like the Kennedy assassination. Steve Ortmeyer comes from the Raiders to the Chargers, practically destroys, and basically does, destroy player personnel at the Chargers as their GM, a horrible period of time for the San Diego Chargers, and then goes back to the Raiders. People in San Diego believe that he was always a plant from Al Davis, and knowing the way Al Davis operated, I don't doubt it.
No, I wouldn't doubt it either. And I mean, just hearing from so many San Diego Chargers fans and reading quite a few articles, there's a good case to be made that Davis planted him.
Well, yeah, and Matt, that wouldn't be something Al Davis would do, would it?
It's the most Al Davis thing ever, actually. So,
no, it really is, and it'll be interesting, but should be a good game. When we come back, we're gonna talk to Chris Reed about Brandon Parker, and he's going to break down the young right tackle's first start today against the Chargers. And then later on in the show, we'll talk to Sam Fortier from the Athletic Los Angeles about the Chargers, and we'll talk more as well about the game matchup, which we'll get into. But first, we're going to step aside. When we come back, we'll be joined by Chris Reed from silverandblacktoday.com. You're listening to Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. We are back here, Silver and Black Today. It is game day. Big AFC rivalry game between the Chargers and your Raiders. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Raiders and a change they made on the offensive line. But I first want to thank some of our sponsors. Of course, if you're going to watch the game today, and especially if you're anywhere on the west side of town, and heck, it's worth driving, check out the Pint up on West Charleston. They not only have the Raider games on, but they have the sound up. And if for people outside of Las Vegas may not understand that, but it's a big deal if you have the sound up, especially if you're a Raiders fan and you want to hear your team and see your team. So make sure you check out the Pint.
Let me tell you, years of sportsbook experience, asking for sound was like the number one question I got. That's the number one request in sportsbooks. Hey, can I get the sound on this game? Hey, can I get the sound on this game?
That's right. And also want to thank Michael Westra, Allstate Insurance. Here's a guy who invests in his community. He doesn't just sell you insurance. Always looking out for you. Doesn't matter if it's home, auto, life. Check out Michael Westra, and he will help you out. We appreciate his support as well. Now what we're going to do is we are going to go out on the attorney Michael Troiano newsmaker line. And, of course, Michael Troiano, criminal defense attorney, is another great sponsor of our shows here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And we're going to bring in one of my favorite guys because he understands things that make my head spin. And that, of course, is Chris Reed, our senior NFL analyst from silverandblacktoday.com. Chris, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good. Big game today.
Big game. In fact, I think it's a crucial game. If the Raiders can win this game, then they can start to think about actually crawling back into the the AFC West race. So now, Chris, you do an amazingly popular segment on our website on silverandblacktoday.com called The Breakdown. And as a guy who understands the ins, the outs, the X's, and the O's, we had you do one this week on Brandon Parker. Now, Brandon Parker, of course, third-round draft pick out of North Carolina A&T of the Raiders, a surprise for most folks. Because of where he went higher than most people anticipated, but the Raiders really loved him. He's going to get his first start this week today. What was it about him, first of all, from the top, that the Raiders liked to pick him as high as they did? Because I know Matt will jump in here in a minute, but Matt liked him but thought he was picked too high. What was it about him that they saw early on, Chris, that made him someone they wanted to draft that high?
I'm sure it's going to be a staple, especially while Tom Cable's the offensive line coach. But Parker's a guy that's 6'8", 315, and really athletic. And I'm sure that's what is going to be the calling card of every offensive lineman they take in the coming drafts.
Yeah, so he fits kind of that Tom Cable mode, what they look for in a guy. Now, so far, he's had limited action as a pro. We saw him get injured during camp and preseason, which limited him a little bit. What are his biggest strengths at the position, and what is it about him besides that enormous size that has the Raiders excited and have him stepping in today for the injured Donald Penn?
Well, it's been like a really limited sample size, but, his physicality, he is pretty strong for a young player. When he was able to anchor, he could take on the bull rush really well, and then, of course, it's just going to keep going back to that athleticism. Yeah,
no, it's hard to avoid that. And not only that, but he was put into the game after Donald Penn got hurt against Cleveland last week. How did he do overall? And this is part of what you talk about and I invite people to go check out The Breakdown with Chris Reed on silverandblacktoday.com. But walk us through a little bit of what we saw in that sample size against Cleveland last week.
Some of it was, familiarity with the players around him as his help was coming to him. That's going to grow, obviously, as he's getting playing time. He had some issues with his balance, his sets, and hand fighting. But, I mean, it's a rookie getting thrown in the middle of the game. You kind of expect those kind of rookie issues.
Yeah, and that's to be expected, right? We've seen Colton Miller, who's done really well, have issues, too. It's an experience game as well. But up front now, what's going to be his biggest challenge that you see overall today as he lines up against this Chargers defense?
Well, with Joey Bosa out, I mean, that's certainly going to give him a leg up because Bosa is such a tactician that he could take advantage of any technical flaws. I would say probably Derwin James, if they're going to be bringing pressure to that side. The Chargers have 8 sacks as a team, and 3 of them have come from Derwin James. So I'd say recognizing blitz pickups.
Yeah, and you're right about the Bosa injury. That's great for the Raiders, obviously, because it's just one less guy they have to worry about. But if you had to break down one skill or one piece of his skill set that is the strongest, what would it be?
So far, just his physical strength. Yeah, he's been able to hold up to some powerful players in a bull rush. He does need to work on, getting his anchor set. With his drop backs, but his physical abilities are there. It's just going to be refining everything from a technical standpoint.
Chris, let me ask you a question, because Donald Penn, we know coming off that Liz Frank injury in the offseason, he wasn't ever really right, not only physically, but having to switch over to the right side. How did you grade him out over the first few games of the season, and was it bad enough that Brandon Parker just being healthy is going to be an upgrade from what we got out of Donald Penn?
Yeah, Parker definitely looked like an upgrade right away. Penn's mobility seemed to, I'm not sure if it was just learning the new side or if it was getting back in shape from the injury, but he never really seemed to move right. He looked good at times, especially in the Rams game. But yeah, he never seemed like it really came together for him.
Now, Chris, we interviewed Brandon here on the show right after the draft, and I was struck with just what an intelligent, mature, down-to-earth young man he is. And I think that's one of the things, when you go through all the NFL protocol with interviews and pre-draft and all that stuff. And, of course, he had a great Senior Bowl where he showed his skill set against top-level talent coming from a small college. But are you seeing that on the field, too, just that smarts? You talk about the physicality, which is one thing, but in the NFL, too, you also have to have that football IQ to be able to do it. Are you seeing that on the field, too?
Yeah, it was, again, the limited sample size, but there was a play where Cleveland tried to confuse him, bringing fake pressure, from his outside and then having somebody cross his face, and he picked it up really quick. And also having Rodney Hudson in the middle making those line calls is going to make his life a lot easier, too.
All right. Well, Chris, man, make sure you check out Chris Reed's breakdown on silverandblacktoday.com. Chris, we'll talk to you real soon, buddy. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. All
right. That was Chris Reed, senior NFL analyst with Silver and Black Today. And Matt and David, I'm interested because this is a tough game to have the situation where you're going to have two rookie tackles in a really important division game with inexperienced guys up there. I think it's going to be tough for them. But if they come out of it unscathed, David, they look pretty good.
Oh, yeah, and you know what's funny about this is these are two draft picks that a lot of fans weren't too thrilled about.
Right.
So that's what makes it even more interesting, and that sort of gives Parker a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, so to speak, and he got off to a little bit of a shaky start last week, but he did get thrust into the middle of the game unexpectedly.
All right, we're going to step aside. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Drink.
The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black Today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbranson and Matt Gutierrez.
Welcome back to silverandblacktoday.com from CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. in the City of Lights in Las Vegas, Nevada. From the Dollar Loan Center, don'tbebroke.com studios, I am Scott Gulbranson, joined in the studio today by David Stepanian, and on the phone from Los Angeles about to cover the game is also Matt Gutierrez. And our special guest today out on the attorney Michael Troiano newsmaker line, joining us is the Chargers writer for The Athletic Los Angeles, and that is Sam Fortier. Sam, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, thanks for joining us. We're interested to get some insight into this Chargers team. Now, going into the season, Sam, the Chargers, Matt and I both thought, boy, they are far and ahead the favorite to win the division. Then all of a sudden, here comes Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs out of nowhere. Joey Bosa gets injured. The Chargers have some other issues with injuries. What the team seems to be a kind of back where they should be on the right track and looking better. What is the state of the Chargers right now as they head into this big division rivalry game against the Raiders today in Los Angeles?
I think the state of the team right now for the Chargers is kind of fans biting their fingernails and maybe getting up to their knuckles at some point here in the next couple of weeks, because without Joey Bosa, I don't know. Yeah, this team is struggling to generate a pass rush, and what you're seeing is really what they're doing is trying to bring that rookie safety, Derwin James, who, he plays strong safety, he plays in the box, but they flex him out to the center field position at free safety. And their other safety that they start, Jaleel Adai, is a strong safety. So when you put him out there, you're a little weaker on the back end, which is really valuable in Gus Bradley's defense. But the only pass rush they're getting right now is by bringing Derwin James down. You can't do that against an offense like the Raiders. So it's going to be an interesting matchup because absolutely you have to generate the pass rush in this league. As you've seen, and so I think until Joey Bosa gets back, they're going to be a little hesitant, and he should be back sometime after the bye. Week 9 is when he said he expects to be back.
Hey, Sam, Matt Gutierrez, probably right down the street from you right now, hanging out, getting ready for the game.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the pass rush. Now, it's no secret the Raiders are struggling to generate any kind of pass rush. You have the whole Max situation. Mo Hurst starting to come around, Arden Key starting to come around, but just not getting to the quarterback with any consistency. And in this case, you have Phillip Rivers, who is a guy that you need to get off of his spot because he's such a good pocket passer, awkward release, but a quick release, and he's an accurate guy. How do you see the Chargers offense against this defense if the Raiders can't get to Phillip Rivers?
Yeah, I think that's the key, getting to Phillip Rivers. And I think that's tough even for a good defense. The 49ers were here last week, and, they have a pretty solid front seven. And even against Russell Okung, their starting left tackle, he left the game before the end of the first half. So they're starting, a six-rounder from 2017 at left tackle and an undrafted free agent rookie who was at Grambling State, 6 months ago at right tackle. And they still couldn't get to Phillip. I think they might have had, a couple pressures, but that's about it. He just gets the ball out so quick. And he has so many weapons in this offense this year that, if the Raiders struggle to get to Phillip Rivers today, he's going to sit back there, complete, 73% of his passes and just kind of pick you apart.
Well, and Sam, with the problems the Raiders have had up front on the defensive side, one of the big, I think, challenges they're going to face today is that of really wrapping up and controlling Melvin Gordon. Talk about his year thus far and the problems it will present for Oakland as they head into today's game.
Right. So Melvin Gordon had a knee injury the last 3 years since his rookie year. And this offseason, he went his legs were actually different sizes because he was compensating so much for that injured left leg, trying to keep pressure off of it. His right leg had built up muscle mass. It was several centimeters bigger than his left leg. So this offseason, obviously, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. So he's trying to get paid as well and watching that Le'Veon Bell situation closely. So, for him, he got right. He said he feels the best he has in years. And really, he's just developed into such a weapon out of the passing game as well. He's like the second leading receiver for them right now. So, stopping Melvin Gordon, you got to have, maybe a nickel corner on him or speedy linebacker at least. And he's just such a challenge this year because he can plow you down straight ahead and he can catch some balls out of the backfield.
Yeah, he's, going to be a load as the Chargers will have to contend with, of course, beast mode in Marshawn Lynch. Now, when you look at Phillip Rivers and the career he's had, undeniable, and the numbers are there, and whatnot. But at the same time, that elusive big win and getting this team further into the playoffs, having been to an AFC Championship game, but not past that. With the way the Chiefs have played this year, how is the team? How is the organization look at the rest of the season? It's a long one, as Vinny Bonsignore, your coworker at the Athletic, said earlier on the show. Does this team feel like they have what they need once they get fully healthy? If they get Bosa back, that they can make that run deep into the playoffs come that time?
I think what you got to look at this season, if you're a Chargers fan, it's almost like a BC-AD situation in terms of like eras, because before Bosa and after Bosa, I think that everybody here is waiting to see what this team looks like with Joey Bosa on the field. Melvin Ingram is seeing double teams all day, and it's just, and I totally get you. I think before the season, people thought, okay, this is the most talented team we've had probably since the LT years. What are we going to be able to do? And I think those fans now are just waiting on Joey Bosa because he brings he just is such a game changer on the defensive line. I think that's what people are waiting to see. Can we really make a run? People are hopeful, but a little hesitant.
Sam, you're in LA. What does it look like from your vantage point as far as what this crowd is going to be like? We've talked a lot about it in the week leading up to this game, and just in general with the Raiders moving to Vegas and where their fans are located throughout Southern California. What do you see for this game? I'm saying 90+% silver and black in that stadium, and that goes all the way back to the San Diego days.
Right. 90 plus is generous even for what I'm hearing. But I talked to some ticket brokers yesterday just to be like, what should we expect? And it's 75% is like the conservative estimates about, how many silver and black jerseys we're going to see in the stands today. And I'm about to get to the tailgate. I think Matt might already be there, but it's just from even when they played the Rams a couple weeks ago, I was talking about, I was at the tailgate. What do you expect when they play the Raiders? And they were like, this is a Raiders town, first and foremost. It is Raiders, Rams, maybe even the Cowboys, and then the Chargers. So, and especially with where the price points are at, with these tickets. I mean, it's tough to get in that stadium. So I would expect to see plenty of Raider fans today.
Hey, Sam, David Stepanian here. So the Chargers are allowing a little bit more than 4 yards per rush. Marshawn Lynch is averaging about 4.5 yards per carry. What do you expect the Chargers defense to do to contain Marshawn?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because they had a lot of trouble stopping the run last year, and they were thinking about drafting a linebacker to kind of plug that up, ended up taking Derwin in the first round. But they get Corey Liuget back. He was on a PED suspension for 4 games. He comes back. And I think he's a little bit better of a run stopper than Darius Philon, who was filling in for him. So I think what you're going to see is maybe bring Derwin up in the box, in early situations, and then flex him back in passing downs. But I mean that's just a guess by me. I think what you're going to see though is really just a focus on that front four being able to get home because they've done okay stopping the run this year. The pass rush has been the problem.
Right. And if we look at, too, the Charger situation, and Matt talked to you about, obviously, the ticket situation with Raider fans coming in and where they land in the market, clearly the Chargers, and, talking to writers around the league, and especially those of you guys in Los Angeles, everybody seems to have the same kind of mentality, which is, look, yeah, the Chargers are not even close to being top 3 or 4 teams in the market when it comes to even football. It's going to take time. It's going to take a generation or so, really, to develop that fan base. As such, are the Chargers, I mean, they need to build up some excitement, too, as they roll into the new stadium here in 2020 in Inglewood. Is Anthony Lynn, do you feel like he's long-term the guy that they really want to do? Is this a strange kind of purgatory area for the Chargers, or do they feel like they have the organization, the staff in place to get them where they want to be by 2020?
Well, I think Anthony Lynn, I mean, he is no contest to Jon Gruden, who's probably the most marketable coach. I mean, I know he's on the billboards out there in Vegas. I think Anthony Lynn is someone that they're excited about. I think Tom Telesco, the general manager, really likes Anthony, and I think Anthony is a good football coach. In terms of, I mean, I would almost, not to put Anthony in the same situation as the Chargers kickers the last 2 years, but it's just such a year-to-year league,
Fluid.
A week-to-week league. That, I mean, who knows? I think he has solid standing right now. I think they like him right now, but, and he has I think he has, 4 years left on his contract, but, I mean, it always remains to be seen, right?
Yep. No, college and pro coaches, you just never know. So Sam, I'm gonna get you to commit here. What's your prediction for the game today?
I think the Raiders don't have enough pass rush to get to Phillip Rivers, and with the weapons he's got, and with the way they've been throwing the ball and moving the ball on the ground too, I think the Chargers are just a little too much for that Raiders defense. I took the Raiders defensive coordinator at his word when he was asked, do you have the defensive backs to stop explosive plays in the backfield? And he was like, we're doing the best with what we got. So if that's like the assessment he has of his D-backs going into a game like this with this offense, I got to go with the Chargers. I'm going to go 31-20.
All right. Okay, well, Sam Fortier from The Athletic in Los Angeles. Sam, I want to thank you again, man, and we'll talk to you later in the year.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. All right, that was Sam, and we appreciate him coming on and talking with all of us here on the silverandblacktoday.com. We'll be back right after this message, and when we do, we're going to talk to Super Bowl champion Dokie Williams on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Callers and guests on the Newsmaker line are brought to you by the Law Office of Michael A. Troiano.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
Indeed, and welcome back, Silver and Black Raider Nation. And we are excited to go out again on the attorney Michael Troiano Newsmaker line and welcome in our Raider legend of the day, and that, of course, is Dokie Williams from the world champion Raiders, of course, 1983 and the 84 Super Bowl, in the last Super Bowl that the Raiders actually have won. They were the Los Angeles Raiders at that time. Dokie, thanks for joining us here on the Silver and Black today.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
It's good. And, of course, we talked a little bit yesterday, and Dokie and I are from the same neck of the woods. You're from Oceanside. I'm from Carlsbad. we are old. Our schools are avocado league rivals. Of course, we during your playing time and during my time in school, which was just a few years after you, we were never any good. But you guys were always good, and the kids that came out of El Camino. But we want to talk about, of course, the great years you had from 83 through 87 with the Raiders, coming out as a fifth-round draft pick out of UCLA. And that year, that Super Bowl run with you guys as the LA Raiders, talk about what kind of year that was for you. And, I mean, you come out of the draft, and there you are, bam, you're right in the middle of an amazing team that makes it all the way, and you get a Super Bowl ring. You kind of got a little spoiled there, didn't you?
Oh man, here and coming out that year, I mean, it was just amazing when the veterans showed up to camp. And from that moment on, it felt like a whole different world. Those guys took charge of everything and knew from the very beginning that we were gonna be something special. And when that team got focused, there was no other team in that league that could stand up to what we were doing on the field.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, just a fantastic team, of course, with all those players and your coach, Tom Flores, who, by the way, I know you agree with us in saying that it's a travesty that Coach Flores is not in the Hall of Fame as of yet. I mean, talk about playing under him and what it was like.
Oh, what a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame. He had the perfect demeanor to lead a football team. And he meant what he said what he meant, and I'll tell you, that entire group, it was a pleasure to follow him, to follow his lead right to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And he made that happen. So
now, throughout your career, Dokie, you were also a track athlete, right? And I remember back in the 80s, a lot of coaches, especially as John Walsh and folks like Al Davis were really starting to spread out offenses and make them much more pass-oriented. They were always looking for guys with speed and even track experience, Willie Gault, all these other guys. How did that help shape the football player you became, being able to do that and run track and be an athlete there, too, outside of football?
Well, there's no doubt that track was a big asset for me, and I think Cliff Branch planted that seed in Al Davis's head, because Cliff would absolutely explode on the field, and he was a great track athlete, and he led the way in that sense, and so being able to be there and be able to use that gift as part of playing football, something special. It's a big weapon. So I was fortunate enough to have that.
Yeah. Now it was obviously being a part of the Los Angeles Raiders, and you didn't get a chance to play in Oakland. They didn't move back till later. But how was it as a young guy? I mean, you played college at UCLA, so you were in Westwood. You were used to kind of the LA scene, but playing for the Raiders during that time in Los Angeles was amazing and colorful, right? You had guys, and we talked to Bob Golick a few weeks ago when he was out here for the first game of the year. That was a really interesting and I think unique and special time in Raiders history because of not only the greatness of the teams, but also being in Los Angeles at that time.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, that city adopted us like a child. I mean, we dug ourselves into Los Angeles. We absolutely loved it. But the strange thing about it was like we were still the Oakland Raiders and the Los Angeles Raiders at the same time. If you could see that. I mean, it was strange. I never felt like I was separated from Oakland, although I never played there. I felt like we were still the Oakland Raiders and the Los Angeles Raiders. I mean, so, and I think that was the building block of Raider Nation.
Oh yeah, and you're right, and that's what I always say. And Oakland fans don't like it when I say it, Dokie, but Raider Nation itself. I mean, Raider fans, the original Oakland fans. Amazing folks, and that's where it all started. At the same time, it was after the move to Los Angeles and the idea that now the team kind of had two home markets, that it became kind of that nation. And the brand is so big, right? I'm sure wherever you go, people always want to talk to you about the Raiders and Al Davis and Tom Flores and all those, and Jim Pong, all those guys you played with. because the brand itself is so big and so just synonymous with football?
Well, I'm from San Diego, and just like you, and we're down there, it's Raider Nation down there, and that's serious as well. I mean, there's an absolute following of Raiders around the country, and as a player, especially during that time, our attitude was, hey, we want you to either love us or absolutely hate us. We don't want anybody in between, and we will take it either way. Love us or hate us, and we love it either way.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, Dokie, is with the Raiders now, and this is what I want to ask you in the few minutes we have left, which is Jon Gruden back there. Let's face it, the franchise has gone through some difficult times between the time when you were there and the time when Mr. Davis passed away, and even before that. And now with Jon Gruden back, they've struggled a little bit this year at the beginning, right? New system, pretty much a new roster in so many ways. What do you think about that move, not only of going back and getting Coach Gruden and kind of bringing a little bit of that swagger back, but also what it's going to mean for this team to get finally its own state-of-the-art stadium here in Las Vegas?
Well, bringing Coach Gruden back, it brought a lot of energy and a lot of excitement to Raider Nation, and that was an important thing to do. It kind of brought new life, and hopefully we can build on that momentum and continue to grow. But Las Vegas brings something, I think, even a little more special, because when you add Las Vegas to the mix, it's that Flash City and that place that is also booming and growing. And Raiders are going to bring a lot to this city, and I think a lot to pro football by making the move to Las Vegas. Personally, that's my own personal feel about it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and clearly, fans, you never want to see a team. And again, you're from San Diego, you still live down there. You probably grew up like I did, a Charger fan, and so to see the market lose their team, doesn't matter which market it is, it's never optimal, but I know that we're very excited. I mean, we wouldn't be on the show if the city wasn't excited about the Raiders coming to Las Vegas and coming to Nevada. Now, later today, Dokie, you are actually here in Las Vegas, and you're out for the Raiders Red Zone Booster Club game watch party. It's going to be starting pregame 12:30 p.m. at Mandalay Bay. People can come down, talk football with you, get some autographs. You excited about getting out there and meeting some Raider Nation here in Las Vegas?
Oh, no doubt about it. I'm excited about being here and joining in with the Las Vegas Raider contention. Hopefully we're going to have a great day and put those Chargers away. And let me correct you on one thing. All of my brothers and family were Charger fans, and I was the anti-guy. I was a Raider fan from a kid on.
I love it. That's always such a great special story, too, is when you get to play for the team that you grew up cheering for or rooting for. So that's awesome. Well, Dokie, I want to thank you, man, for joining us. Take care of San Diego County for me, and I hope to meet you and talk to you here pretty soon.
Hey, Scott, thanks for inviting me. I had a great time talking to you guys, and hopefully we have a big day today. Shout out to the Marietta Raider fans out there as well.
All right, Marietta. Well, we get streaming on radio.com, so I'm sure they're listening today. So, Dokie Williams, thanks very much. You are listening to Silver and Black today. We bring you everybody. See, we bring you a Super Bowl champion there. Just a great guy, and special, obviously, because he grew up in the same area I did, in El Camino High School, where he went to high school, is back to being a power. I think they won the Avocado League last year, 2017. So good to have him on board, so we thank him. Don't forget, you can go see him today if you want to head down to Mandalay Bay, the Raiders Red Zone Booster Club, which if you've not heard of them, check them out on Facebook. Cheryl Byrne Thornton, who runs that, fantastic person, and really does a great job. Check out Mandalay Bay, go meet Dokie, get his autograph, and watch the game with other Raider fans. All right, we're going to step aside. When we come back, you're going to hear an NFL football game here on 1140. Head on over to radio.com for the rest of this show. You're listening to Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas on CBS Sports Radio 1140 AM.
This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. here in Las Vegas. We go out to California now. We bring in Mike Summers. Mike is the head of and running the Raiders Fan Convention. That's right. If you're in Las Vegas, Mandalay Bay, Saturday, October 20th from noon to 6 p.m., there's a Raider Fan Convention, which is great because there's a lot of Raider fans here. There's also a lot of Raider fans I know from Southern California, probably Northern California, that want to come out to the future home of the Raiders and have a really great time with other Raider fans while enjoying Las Vegas. Mike, thanks for joining us today on the Silver and Black today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so Mike, talk about, I mean, this is a big event. I mean, you guys doing this, I know it's not your first one, but it takes a lot of work. Talk to me about the genesis of this idea and how you came up with it and kind of the why you're doing it.
Yeah, why we're doing it? Because the Raider Nation loves staying together and enjoying each other's company. We really have a good time together. Started 10, I think almost 11 years ago in Oakland. A couple guys and I got together and decided, hey, why don't we do this all the time? Hey, why don't we give it a name? Hey, why don't we grow it? And they kept faded away, and I kept going with it. And gotten bigger and bigger. I think we've done 23 events. Oakland, San Diego, Phoenix, and Vegas are the cities we've done them in.
Wow! Now, do you do one in all of those cities every year?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heck of a lot of work. Very cool. And, that's true. You with Raider Nation, I think for those fans in Las Vegas, because there's a lot of Raider fans that have been in Las Vegas because a lot of transplants like myself and others from Southern California, Northern California, who've come out here and brought the Raider Nation with them. But there's also a lot of fans here in Las Vegas who are getting ready for the Raiders to come here. They might not be or might not have been lifelong or longtime Raider fans, but they're ready to embrace what will be the home team and all that. But talk about, I mean, what is it about Raider Nation that makes it such a close-knit group no matter where you are?
Well, it's the colors, it's the bond, it's the team. I don't know what it is. It's family. And for those that are in the Vegas area that want to root on the new home team, come out to the event. The event is a family event. It's meet the people you see on TV, Violator and Gorilla Row and Skull Lady, and the people you see on TV, they're fantastic people. And the Raider Nation are full of fantastic people. Come get a flavor. Come see what we're all about. It's such a good time, and well about the kids too, because it's family.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think for folks who are not Raider fans or they're going to be new to Raider Nation, there's a lot of misconceptions, right? I had a conversation with somebody who was making some kind of stereotype judgments about Derek Carr just today. And I said to them, that's pretty ironic coming from a Raider fan, because if there's any fan base in the country that I believe is more misunderstood and more stereotyped, it's Raider Nation. I mean, I grew up in San Diego where people would call Raider fans, criminals and stuff. So, but like you said, right. I have 5 kids, right? So for me, knowing that it's a family environment, and that's the one thing that I always see. We get calls all the time, people, when we do events out here in the city. Some of them are at bars, it's 21 up, and they're like, hey, can I bring my kids? I mean, that is a common question. That family piece of it too, it's generational, isn't it?
It is generational, and you see the merchandise on the kids, and the kids are so excited, and they see the super fans, or they meet the players, and the players, get down on their level and just treat them like family also. It's so nice. And what we do is we have it during the day. It's 12 p.m. to 6 is the Raiders Fan Convention. Bring the kids. Kids 12 and under are free. Only $30 at the door. We do have an after party at Mandalay Bay also at the Maria Beach Club. That's 21 and over, and that's at 9 p.m. So, yeah, bring the kids. Come on down for the Raiders Fan Convention, but we also have the after party happening at the Maria Beach Club at Mandalay also.
Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I said, we can go with the kids during the day, bring them home. I have an older son. I said, then my son can watch the kids, and then we can go back and have some adult fun, which is great. It's the best of two worlds. Now, Mike, for you, tell me about your kind of Raider fandom. When did you start following the Raiders, and was it family for you, or were you the first one?
I am so the first one. My family is all from Pittsburgh. And they are diehard Steeler fans, right? But I'm 51 now. In the 70s, the arch rivals were the Steelers and that damn team in silver and black with the pirate and the stickum and the nicknames and the just so cool. And why wouldn't I cheer for them? Dad, I like that team better. You can look at this. No, I like the Raiders. So it started right there. My parents were upset with it. What am I doing? Raiders? Come on, arch rivals. And I'm like, yeah, those guys, the dirty guys, that team. So it started way back, and why would I leave? I love the team. I love the Raider Nation. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, the event itself, too, you mentioned Mandalay Bay. Obviously, we talked about $30 for admission at the door. 12 and under are free, which is a heck of a deal. A lot of places it's like 6 and under. So this is amazing that you guys are really focusing on the family. But not only that, let's talk about we'll talk about the entertainment in a second because you have some really cool entertainment there. But you're going to have some Raider legends, including Willie Gault, including Greg Townsend, Lyndon King, and Swervin' Mervin Fernandez. I mean, for folks to go meet these legends, that to me is worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah, we really, really work hard to try and bring the most everything to the event without breaking somebody's bank. We want single moms to go. We want people who are, just the regular blue-collar person, fan, or even people contemplating, hey, this whole Nation thing, it's $50, $60. That's an investment, So we try to make it as affordable as possible and give as much as possible. Not only do we have those players, and those players are epic. Willie Gault has a gold medal, too.
I know, amazing.
Super Bowl champions mixed in there. But there's going to be even more alumni because the NFL Players Alumni Association will be there. They will have fans. We'll have Raiders different decades there. The opportunity to meet just those guys alone is huge. And they smile, and they're all very polite. Yeah,
no, that's good. I know, for example, Greg, I met when the Raiders did the draft. They did a really cool thing. They did their third round picks and on from Nellis Air Force Base here in Las Vegas. And Greg was out there in the Thunderbirds hangar, and just an amazing guy. And then, of course, Lyndon King we run into all the time out here since he lives out in Las Vegas. And those guys are all great guys. And I just love how they interact with the fans. And, a lot of these folks you would think would be unapproachable, but they're Raiders. And Raider players really do, to me, have a special place because they do understand the Raider Nation, and they understand how much the fans love them and look up to them, and they really do treat them with respect. And that's much different than other fan conventions I've seen, whether it's baseball or football or basketball, in that these guys are so approachable, and they really are there, and they spend the time.
They do, and you hit it right on the head. They're not these elite, untouchable, and you can't talk to them. They're not that. I mean, they have the talent, and they have the hardware, the Super Bowl rings and things to be that kind of person, but they're not. And they're amazing.
Yeah. And then, of course, now you also have, it was real cool to see because of the time I grew up, because I'm close to your age as well. And you're going to have there performing live NWA's DJ Yella and then Lil Eazy-E as well, and a bunch of other acts too. So people are going to be able to not only come and talk football, spend time with fellow Raider fans, but they're also going to be able to hear these guys perform, which is amazing.
Yeah. DJ Yella's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right? From NWA. They're coming out. They're going to perform at the event, more of a PG version, right? Because it's family.
Right.
Right? And then the after party is going to be the Unleashed version. But Hall of Famer performing, Little Eazy-E, and then DJ West, local DJ out there. Then Raider Boys, Raider music, 4Dubs Raider music. Fragile just dropped an album on I forget the record label, but she just dropped an album. She's going to perform. She's amazing. And we have a free kids raffle. And we've got monster trucks in there.
Wow. So now the other thing is, too, besides the legends and the super fans you mentioned and the live DJs, you're going to also have vendors there. So if you're looking for some really cool Raider memorabilia and merchandise, you're going to have that as well, correct?
We'll have a lot of vendors, including Black Sunday, there with their merchandise. And generally, when people come in, it's merchandise central. I mean, Raider Nation loves their merch because it's the best colors in the league.
No doubt. Now, for those folks that want to get tickets in advance, how do they do that? The event is on October 20th. So we got some time here, but it's coming up quick. How can they get tickets if they don't want to wait to get to the door?
There's a few options. Tickets can be sold via phone number 877-632-7400, 877-632-7400. We also have an event page on Facebook, Raiders Fan Convention Las Vegas 2018. There are links for not only the tickets, but we have amazing room discounts. The rooms at Mandalay Bay are only $409 a night. If you click the link, call Mandalay Bay and ask them for the Raiders Fan Convention, the rooms are $139 for our guests.
That's cheap on the Strip for the weekend, my man.
Right? It's an amazing opportunity, and try and get the word out. And they even have rooms. I think some of the suites face the new stadium.
That's the other thing too that I would tell people that are coming in, because even though our show here is on the radio in Las Vegas, we also put this up on our website, and we have, as you can imagine, with Raider Nation, we have listeners all over the country. We even got a call a few weeks ago from Dublin, Ireland. It blew me away, but it shows you how great Raider fans are. So for those coming in from out of town, staying at Mandalay Bay would be great because you can actually start to practice walking over to the stadium. which is something you can do when it opens, and it's right across I-15. There's an overpass to get there, and you can kind of check out the construction because it's going vertical now, so it's going to be really exciting. And before we let you go, and we will post the number for the tickets and all this information on our website and on this live video feed that you're watching now. You also see the number down below where you can get tickets to. Is how do you feel? Now, how do you feel? There's a lot of fans in the Bay Area upset that their team's leaving. Totally understand that. Don't blame them. But for the rest of Raider Nation outside of Oakland itself, I think most people are excited that the Raiders are finally going to have their own home from the ground up. How do you feel about the move to Las Vegas?
Well, I feel that I had no control over it. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm excited wherever they go. As long as they stay somewhat close to me and don't move to Texas, change their colors, change the name and all that good stuff, right? I still follow the team, regardless of what city. I'm excited they're going to Vegas. The new stadium, it's a drag for the people that have been lifelong tailgaters in Oakland, and you know exactly where they're at. You know what they have, and the people of Oakland and the lifelong tailgaters are amazing people.
Yep.
The move's happening, and it's happening, and it's exciting, and it's Mark Davis's legacy. We got the new stadium with the suites and everything else. I'm all about it. Let's start winning some games. Let's go.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Everybody wants to win.
You got it. You listen. You're good boss. And for all you people out in Vegas, come on out, tell a friend. Let's have a good time.
That's right. All right, Mike Summers from the Raiders Fan Convention, October 20th, Mandalay Bay, noon to 6. We will step aside now for a break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. We're here with...
Help us talk the Silver and Black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Matt Gutierrez and your host, Scott Gulbranson, on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
Oh, yeah, it is a football Sunday, and we're getting geared up for the Raiders versus the Chargers. The 2-2 Chargers and the 1-3 Raiders. I am Scott Gulbranson here on Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio 1140, joined by David Stepanian. David, we're going to talk a little bit about the Charger-Raider game now because it's coming up. And what a great show, though. I mean, all these guests, Vinny, having Matt in from L.A., he's going to be down there covering the show. He's going to be live tweeting, by the way. Silver Black today, the number 2 day.
What a lucky guy. He gets to go to that nice soccer stadium and to catch a Raiders home game.
I told him, I said, now, if someone scores, don't stand up and yell, "Go!"
That might be difficult to do.
I know. But, that's the way it goes. So he's in the press box, though, so he can't cheer anyway. But welcome back to the show, folks. And we're going to look at this game now. To me, as I said earlier, David, this game is a way for the Raiders, if they can somehow win it, and I actually feel confident about that. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But if they can actually win this game, they move back into contention in the AFC West, especially if the Jaguars can somehow beat the Chiefs.
I think this is a must-win game for both teams. I mean, the Chargers don't want to fall into any bigger of a hole behind the Kansas City Chiefs. And hey, if you beat the Chargers, I mean, the Raiders are still in the thick of things. You got both of those teams at 2-3, and hey, what if the Jets beat the Broncos? I mean, that's not so wild to think about either. We'll have three 2-3 teams.
I like the Jets.
You did
today.
say that, but it's not so far-fetched to think, maybe Sam Darnold has a good game. It's not far-fetched to think Jets win at home today.
No.
But that's not the game we're talking about.
No.
But I think that does factor into this AFC West race, of course, because then if the Raiders win and the Jets win, we have 3 teams at 2-3. And what if the Jags beat the Chiefs?
Oh, I know.
That's not too hard to believe either.
And you got to, no matter how good Pat Mahomes is, as a rookie quarterback, you just have times when you come back to earth. Now, the Raiders going to the StubHub Center today, their 3rd away game in their last 4 games. So it's been a rough road. I think people forget about that a little bit. They had the opening game against the Rams and then against the Browns at home last week. Now, this is a game the Chargers and the Raiders played last 2017. Not a good game for the Raiders, if you recall. The season was pretty much in the bag at that point. Locker room was not doing well. Chargers took it by a score of 30-10. If you look at the overall series, David, 65, 52, and 1 are the Raiders against the Chargers. So if you look at that overall series, and you talked about the history, of course, the Chargers coming off an at-home win against the 49ers last week. But again, the history of the Chargers over the last 5 years has been about injury. And this year, Joey Bosa, their defense was supposed to be one of the best in the AFC, and I think they're ranking something like 27th in the league.
Look, there's good trends for both teams if you want to look at that. But Jon Gruden 7-1 against the Chargers as coach of the Raiders. He did go 0-2 as coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Phillip Rivers 16-8 against the Raiders in his career. So there's a lot of stuff to look at in this game. But I feel like when you look at this game and you look at the Raiders' home field advantage, so to speak, I don't think it's going to be that big of a factor, to be honest. I mean, the Chargers have basically been playing road games at home. I mean, if you saw the 49ers game, the Chiefs game, I feel like the Raiders crowd, the pro Raiders crowd, isn't going to be that big of a factor when you're the Chargers, and I feel like they should be pretty used to it at this point.
Well, and I see your point there. I think it'll help the Raiders to a degree, but it's not enough. It's not like a home field advantage where you have 65,000 people cheering you on, to me. And so yeah, it'll play a little bit. Mostly it's for bragging rights. Raider Nation can rub it in to Charger fans. But if you look at the team's statistics overall, and sometimes they can be misleading, but there is one that's very telling, and that is concerning if you're a Raiders fan. So the Raiders might be second overall in the NFL when it comes to offense, total offense at just under 442 yards per game. Chargers are ninth with 403. Rushing is about even. Points are close. The Raiders are 13th in points per game, and the Chargers are tied for 8th. But, David, you look at red zone efficiency. So this is touchdowns as a percentage of your red zone offense. The Raiders are only at 50%, which ties them for 22nd in the league. The Chargers double that. They're at 60% and tied for 11th. And to me, that's been the Raiders' issue, is scoring points. They move the ball tons.
Look, not being able to get 7 points when you're in the red zone, that has been killing the Raiders this season. And in particular, not getting the scores, not getting touchdowns in the second half of the game. They did pretty well against the Browns last week. And I remember last week, I think we were all on the Raiders to beat the Browns, and what they really had to...
Matt wasn't. Matt thought the Browns were going to win.
Matt picked the Browns. Well, he was wrong on that. Thanks, Matt. But they really had to dig deep and throw everything but the kitchen sink at the Browns to win that game. And I feel like the Chargers, it's going to be a tough game. This is a divisional battle, and I think I hate to say it, but I feel like the Chargers are going to take this one.
Okay.
I think I
What's your score?
Chargers are going to take this one. 28-24 will be the final.
28-24. Okay, now we haven't talked to our crack engineer, Sonia Schlobaum, who we're going to now throw up on camera. Sonia, tell us what you think. Chargers, Raiders, how's it going to end up today?
I'm going to say Chargers.
You got a score?
No.
Just outright they're going to beat them, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the score-wise, but I think it's going to be the Chargers.
Okay. All right, so here I'm gonna go opposite the stream that I'm feeling in the studio right now.
So you're all on the Chargers.
No, I am gonna say that the Raiders are gonna pull this out in dramatic fashion yet again for a second week in a row. You ready? 34-33.
Wow.
Yeah,
You think it's gonna be close?
I think that yes, I think it's going to be close and it's going to be high scoring. Because both of these defenses, the Chargers missing their best player in Joey Bosa and the Raiders not having a great defensive front, guys. I just think that we're going to see a scoring fest, and I think that the Raiders at the end of the day are going to do it. I pick Phillip Rivers to throw another costly late game pick.
I feel like Phillip Rivers has had so much success throughout the years that I'm getting the feeling he's going to have a big game today. And he needs it. I mean, this is crunch time for the Chargers and the Raiders.
Well, guys, thank you all for being here. I appreciate David Stepanian and, of course, Sonia Schlobaum, our engineer and producing the show for us. We are going to step aside. Make sure you join us for the PG, your postgame show here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. today on the radio.com app due to Dodgers game. Until next week, guys, may the autumn wind always be at your back. We'll talk to you next time on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m. See ya.